I have to say, at least for me, the goal was achieved because, we weren't going to solve it in a day. We wanted the ideas, we wanted the comments, and I think the engagement of everyone made that difference. So as we bring the conference to a close, we actually have two very key people, both you've heard from already this afternoon, that are going to really sort of tie this together and reflect on what they've heard and how we move forward. So let me first ask Bryan Albrecht, Dr. Bryan Albrecht. He moderated the session yesterday, but Bryan, your thoughts on what's next? Where do we go? What did we hear that we have to move?
Well, thank you, Jan. And let me just first start out by thanking all of the participants in the last 2 days events, our speakers, our sponsors, the CCD leadership team, those that stuck with us now all the way through to the end. Your input is really what's helping shape and guide the research agenda, the discussion level agenda with policymakers, and how we can implement some of these new strategies at the local level. So I'm grateful on behalf of the board and appreciative of your time, and look forward to continuing the dialogue at future events. As you'll hear, we're going to continue to roll out these discussion groups and bring more people into the conversation. So it would be silly for me to think that I could try to, capture everything that was said in the last 2 days, because it's really powerful. And I have a lot of notes that I'm going to reflect on myself personally to kind of help influence my work here at the college. And just as a brief signal of how quickly things change in all of these environments, while we're on Zoom all day, the CDC changed their mask policy. So now I got to go back and change all of our own practices back at the college tonight. It's a very moving and fluctuating environment we live in. And I think that's a good reminder of all that we heard. A couple of key themes that I think I'm walking away with: this idea of transformation, and we're living through it right now, right? We're living through transformation in the way education is being delivered, which will impact the way people make decisions about the coursework they take, the pathway they choose, the build out and the relationships between middle school, high school and college, and ultimately college and work. And we heard it explained in so many different variations of how we can do a better job of sharing information and building those capacities, whether it's through the technology discussion we had, through the policy discussions we had, or the best practices of the individual committees. It focused on the idea of talent, and I think that resonated really well with our industry panel, that if I could summarize it in one word, it would be jobs, jobs, jobs. And we're seeing that play out every day in our community, that the skilled worker shortage is growing at exponential rates, and that's going to drive salaries and personal income, and ultimately then decisions by young people and their parents about where you can make a good family wage and what kind of skills you're going to need in order to do that. So all of these things are intertwined. While we're going through a transformation, we're also going through a rapid growth in the economy based on new sector skills, which is what Mark brought out. That we've got to think differently about the types of skills that are what might have been considered entry level or employability based 5 years ago are totally different today. We learned a lot about digital literacy, and that we're all continuing to find new pathways to learn basic skills now to communicate, whether it's our personal life or our work life. And I think as we think about the impact that we can have collectively on the group, is how do we influence the institutions that we're responsible for? So transformation and the concept of the changing economy as it evolves, in the middle is this bridge building with teachers, counselors, parents, policymakers, and in our own spheres of responsibility, like Sam mentioned, the black box, we have a responsibility. So for some reason, we are on this call together as leaders, and we have to step up to that challenge. And now that we know better, we need to inform better. So we need to do a better job of investing and supporting our own staff, whether they're teachers or counselors or business partners, to get involved in this discussion and to really think seriously about supporting the talent pipeline at all levels. We know that we're in a sweet spot, career and technical education. We heard that. Kim explained it in her presentation, that there's a great history and a foundation already built and an engagement process. We can inspire youth by giving them application, whether it's work-based learning or some applied methodology. It might be dual credit. There's a lot of ways to incentivize young people, but we know what the sweet spot is. It's CTE. And I think our work will continue to drive the transformation of career and technical education to raise the visibility. And I think I mentioned in my part to kind of focus on that idea of the dignity of work and bring that back to the reality that there is dignity in all work, and there are multiple pathways to get to that work based on your own passion. One thing that resonated with me, and I wrote it down 3 times, and I'm going to keep saying it. I think it's this idea around, we heard that the gender gap, closing it by 10% can close the skills gap by 50%. So while we focus in that case on the gender gap, let's keep in mind the whole broad initiative around equity and inclusion. And the more we can diversify our experiences and give our young people kind of role models and examples through all kinds of scenarios that we shared today, through mentoring, through best practices, through connecting with industry, through internships, if we can broaden our definition of what a qualified workforce is, we can begin to address some of the challenges that face our workforce. So I think that's a key one, 10 to 50. I'm going to remember that one as my takeaway. And then today, rich discussion today, and I'm not going to go through all the details because we all just went through it together, but there is no lack of work for any one of us to do. The good news is we all now have a stronger network because we all know each other and we know where we can tap into and rely on each other to give us good advice and to begin to build our own internal capacities. And the more we do that, the stronger we will be regionally. The stronger we are regionally, the more power we have to influence state policy. The more state policy we have influence over national policy. So thanks to Leo and Jan and Spencer and everybody that is really doing the behind the scenes work on all of this work. Scott, your research agenda is critical to our long-term success. And as a board, the CCD is really here to just help guide the ship. And I'll close it like this, to turn the light on at the end of the tunnel, to make sure that we're all taking a step every day toward that light. Mark, you resonated that message very strongly for all of us, that we are all in tunnels and we're all looking for the brighter future. And that's what our work is collectively about. And I think we made a big step in that direction with our original opening statement that Leo brought to us. The purpose was to build a national consensus around making career readiness the first priority in American education. So that's our goal, and that's how I'll end my comments today. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I love that. Turn the light on at the end of the tunnel. I think that's great. You know, that is really good. So thank you. That sums it up really nicely. And before I turn it back over to Leo to close this out, I do want to encourage all of you, you know, to go up and visit the CCD Center's website. It's ccd-center.org. Spencer, you might want to put that in the website. There you go. Thank you. It's easier to write than to say. But we're also looking, we'd like you to share what you are doing. So, you know, we continue the learning from each other, so that if you go to the website, you'll be able to find out what's going on around there. And I will say this conference isn't the end of the discussion. As Brian has said, it is the beginning. We have a lot to do moving forward. It's been exciting to hear all that was said. The CCD Center Board of Directors is on top of that and very engaged. We have a significant advisory council. If you are interested in being part of it, please contact me. And this is an important issue that we are very pleased to be able to embrace, think about, and engage a broad audience with what is working out there. Where are the gaps, and how do we all work together? How do we engage to close those gaps? And with that, Leo, I'm going to turn it over to you for allowing us to have some final remarks. And
thank you, Jan. I really sincerely want to congratulate Brian on a masterful summary of 2 days of complex meetings. He did a wonderful job. I'm not going to replicate anything he said at all, although I have my own notes of other highlights of the conference that I enjoyed. I really want to address myself a little bit more to process. I said at the beginning, the board wanted to see this meeting as a way to further develop and refine our ideas to be well prepared for a summit meeting that we're planning in the fall. We have a little bit more work to define the exact time and date of that summit. We're going to be working on that and getting back to everybody shortly on that one. But that was really the main task. I really, on behalf of the board, I want to congratulate everybody for this meeting. I think we've served up the purpose quite well. I tried to help a little bit by my opening remarks by kind of reminding everybody that we do have a well-defined roadmap that we've been developing over several years. But the conference and in all the ways that Brian defined and others really did add a great deal of value and gave us other enrichments to that roadmap that will be very valuable going forward. I think we also succeeded in identifying major opportunities along the way. Certainly one of them are the president's initiatives, the American Job Opportunities Initiative combined with infrastructure, $2.1 trillion, I believe, over 10 years. That's notable. The American Families Plan is another $1.8 trillion and has quite a lot in there about subjects that are of great interest to us. So we're certainly aware of those. I also wanted to point out the fact that the Business Roundtable has come out with a pronouncement about the social responsibility of industry, which is very, very interesting and quite groundbreaking, and gives us an opportunity to look to industry and a good excuse to get back to industry, say, okay, now you want to contribute more to our communities and to our workforce training. We have a lot of good ideas on how you might do that, such as employer-funded summer internship programs, which is one of my favorites. We, of course, are studiously nonpartisan. We're also looking at GOP responses, and that's being worked out. We're also very attentive to state policy as well as federal policy. We have a lot of strengths and soundness in our basic platform. In terms of next steps, I think that what we're going to do is analyze carefully the results, the notes we've taken on all the discussions today, and we're going to pull together some issue papers. I'm not sure if it's going to be one or several, but basically, well-defined policy briefs, if you will. And in the course of doing that, we're going to be consulting with all the members of the board, all the members of the advisory council, to see if we can build consensus. I mean, really a pretty solid consensus across the entire coalition around these propositions. Now, if we can manage to do that, given the power and scope of our coalition, which is certainly very powerful if you put together the board and our advisory council, that'll really give us a very, very strong position to begin communicating our suggestions widely throughout the country, and certainly to prepare for a summit meeting that will bring to the table a very mature, well-researched, carefully thought through coalition position, which I think will greatly enhance our impact, because we are trying to make sure that we do get the resources and we get the support to actually build the road for which we build the map. We do need the resources to accomplish everything we set out for ourselves. And that summit meeting will give us an opportunity to really try to pin down those resources. So I think it's been a grand meeting, and I think it's certainly, we'll be very happy to report back progress to the board and look forward to a lot of really, really meaningful work over the coming weeks. Thank you.